Yeah. Charlie Tuna.
What up, man?
Dynamite MC, Crafty Cuts.
Yes, sir.
We return to make skin burn.
Fire.
Clock's ticking. What you gonna do with it? If every second
ISU community, welcome to the 7th ISU podcast. Today with Zaya, Sodbileg, Oyundari, and Mr. Mwangangi. And they're going to talk about BEIMUN, the Beijing Model United Nations. Thank you guys for being here today and to share your experiences. Mr. Mwangangi, can you explain what BEIMUN is, what the girls have been doing over there?
So basically, Beijing International Model United Nations is an opportunity whereby students have a chance to participate in debating using parliamentary procedure, just like the actual United Nations, and they debate on actual issues that are affecting the world. Like, for instance, in this year's conference, one of the interesting things, well, at least for me, that the students were addressing was trying to come up with a solution for the global anti-vaccine movement, because that's something that is affecting the world right now because of the anti-COVID, vaccination movement. So students have this chance to actually come up with real-life solutions to some of the problems that are affecting the world today. The whole idea is to give students an opportunity to be actual world leaders and propose actual solutions to the problems that we are facing today. Because as somebody who has participated in Model United Nations for a huge chunk of my life, one of the things I have noted here is that as my teachers before me and now me as a teacher, I've come to the realization that as international educators, we are basically teaching not just our country's leaders, but the leaders of tomorrow in different parts of the world, in the world itself. And so if these leaders are going to make any impact in the world, they need to start practicing now. They need to get those skills now. And so this is one of those opportunities the Model United Nations provides.
Yeah, so we were just talking with the girls before we started the recording, and they said it was a long weekend, Thursday to Sunday. Oyundari, to start with you, can you talk a little bit about that whole experience? Do you log in the morning and you're there the whole day? How does it work?
So we started at 10:30 a.m. until 4:30, and basically what the process was that we'd get into our commissions. There's a few different commissions. For example, I was in the environmental commission, and then we'd get to our certain topic we had, because in each commission they had like 3 topics. So for me, I addressed the legal wildlife trade, and we get into a group of people from different nations or delegates that are representing the nation and combine our resolutions together to make one. And then on the following days, we debate on those different resolutions in the commission between each other and try to make it the best it can be.
So Bilek, in which commission where were you in this BEIMUN conference?
I was in Human Rights Council, and the topic I addressed was protecting the rights of whistleblowers in the workplace. Yeah, and I was the delegate of South Africa.
So you were delegating South Africa, so you didn't have Mongolia as your country, you only got assigned a different country, right? Zaya, in which commission were you?
I was in the World Health Assembly Commission, and my topic was addressing the global anti-vaccine movement.
Just a question about that. How do you choose the country that you are going to represent? How is that done?
I can answer that. Generally, students don't get to choose the countries. They are allocated by the organizers of the conference. The idea is to have somebody from Mongolia being a delegate of a country like South Africa, which now gives them an opportunity, because they have to represent the actual stance of that country on world issues in the United Nations. So it gives them an opportunity to explore what actually that country represents in the global community.
So is there research that needs to be done before you go to this?
Yes, a lot of research. They'll tell you that they had to do lots of research from very many different perspectives to get the information they needed for their resolutions.
Okay, so it sounds like maybe they got to know what they were doing before the event started.
Oh yes, they have to. Because before going to the resolution to the actual conference, they have to write a draft resolution that they present when they go to the actual commissions, then merge those draft resolutions with now the resolutions that have been made by other students, so that they have one general resolution for their commission or for their committee, which now they will be debating on.
Okay, awesome. Did they get to choose what commission they were part of then?
No. Oh yes, the commission they chose.
Yeah, the commission.
Yeah.
Okay. You knew what commission, and then you had to be assigned what country. So then you had some research to do. Okay, awesome. I knew nothing about this, so that's great. Just hearing this right from the source now.
Yeah, I did a little bit of research. Sorry, Mr. Deers, on the BEIMUN website. So that was really interesting. Sodbileg, can you explain a little bit the different roles? Because I had no idea. Because you have like a leader and you have delegates, and how does that work?
So there's a president of like in each committee, and in each committee there's like 3 topics within it, and each topic has their like own chairs who will be like leading the debate, lobbying, and the actual the whole procedure. So yeah, the team included the chairs, president, and delegates.
Okay, so how many people are we talking about then here, like per committee?
So for my topic, I had 2 chairs. Yeah.
Okay.
Because obviously a criticism of the United Nations that it's a talking shop and there's too many voices. Did you find that when you went to this particular event, that your voice, did you feel that your voice was heard? And is it Zaya?
Yeah.
Zaya. Could I ask you, Zaya, what do you think?
I think all delegates were given like an equal chance to talk, because considering how it's online, we had to like raise our hands through the reactions, and then the chair would see that and then call our names.
So how many students were there? How many schools were involved, Oyundari?
So I think there were around maybe 400 or more students from a bunch of different schools. For example, I know a lot of them were from China, some from South Africa, Korea, Philippines. So it was very worldwide.
Mr. Mwangangi, can I ask you about that? Because you've done a few face-to-face MUNs, or loads of them. How was this different? Was this your first virtual one, or did you have something before?
It was my first virtual MUN, and I must say it was very challenging because, the fun of MUN is having to interact with other people physically. And that physical engagement makes MUN to be more, engaging. But I have to give kudos to the organizers of this conference, because despite the challenges of an online platform, they did try very hard to give students that opportunity to interact with one another. They were using Microsoft Teams, which I think kind of made it easier for people to be able to engage and discuss and, just have that discourse.
And after the discussions, does it come? Are you allowed to conclude your discussions? Are there conclusions that happen right at the end?
By conclusions, you mean like if they do come up with a solution to the problem they were discussing?
Yes. Yeah.
I think I'm sure they do. Maybe one of the students can elaborate on that. Maybe Sodbileg.
Oh. Like within the committee, the students are like divided into different groups, and they work on one resolution together. And after finish working on their resolution, they present their resolution to other countries, when basically other countries like ask questions, and they would just like sometimes like add amendment, which would like they recommend adding new like clauses on our resolution, and sometimes they would like even strike our amendment. So from that discussion, we get to like form a new resolution based on like that would like include like all the countries' perspective. So I would say yes.
Yeah.
At the end of the procedure, we like get like a solution. Yeah.
Great.
So Zaya, oh sorry, and before I go.
Okay, just add one thing about resolution, because sometimes for people who haven't really done MUN or participated in UN meetings, resolutions might be like a confusing thing. And see, the idea with a resolution is a diplomatic call to action for something, right? So just like the actual United Nations meetings, whereby all those delegates come up with actual resolutions to problems. Like, for instance, during the Syrian crisis, there was a call to action by the countries of the world to ask European countries, specifically Turkey, to give those refugees safe avenue in their country, or a safe refugee status in their country, right? So the same thing here in the MUN, they also draft actual solutions, actual resolutions, like what happened in the actual United Nations. And in fact, in some conferences, like my former school's conference, because it was housed by the UN Habitat offices, then those leaders, the actual UN leaders, will borrow some of those resolutions and use them to formulate their decision making in some of the problems that the students were addressing.
I'd be tempted to. Were you tempted to use the veto? Are you allowed to do that in this particular United Nations?
Remember, the veto is only for United Nations Security Council.
Oh, I see.
So not every country wields veto power in the United Nations. It's only 6 countries that do that. But in MUN meetings, the veto power is usually strictly controlled by the chairs of those commissions,
right,
or those committees.
Yeah.
So Zaya, this was your first MUN conference you attended?
Yeah.
What was your main takeaway from this experience?
Main takeaway, like considering it was online, like my first time online, I'd say that it was still like really collaborative and everyone still like worked together. So it was a really good experience.
And for you, Oyundari?
Sorry, can you repeat the question again?
What was your main takeaway from this whole experience?
The main takeaway I had was that it's very good to have other people to debate with for, I guess, anything in general, because they really give different points of view and it can help make something better than what you already think it is.
So again, it sounds like you all had a pretty positive experience. Is this something you'd want to do again moving forward next year, whether that was virtual or, even better, in person? All you, Sodbileg?
Yes, Sodbileg.
Even though it was a bit tiring process, I would say I enjoyed it, and yeah, I would do more in future.
Awesome. So is this something we could bring? Should we try to host an event like this?
Yeah.
We can organize it, but it takes years of planning to pull off. It takes a lot of planning and invitations to make it a success. I mean, Sodbileg will share our experience in the UB MUN, and it was a disaster because they did not plan at all. They did not have any plans. I mean, some of our students were helping in the planning, and they came to me in the last minute, like the last month of preparation, to ask for my input. I was like, I'm sorry, it's too late. And so when they were pulling it off, so many things went awry. So if we plan in advance to try and organize it, then it can be a success. But I just have to say it's going to be a very time-consuming exercise that will need a lot of support from the admin and also from the diplomatic corps in the city.
Is this something you could actually do on a much smaller scale within the school itself?
Yes, definitely. In my former school, we used to organize our own internal conferences in preparation for the actual conference.
Okay. I think that's, again, more what I was thinking. I was maybe trying to rope you into saying, oh yeah, it's easy, we can do this.
Yeah.
But no, once we maybe, again, if these girls or anyone else in the school wanted to get involved and attended a few, then I think, yeah, it'd be great to try to bring that and maybe do a smaller event. Like you said, they tried to do a UB event. So maybe that is something we could look into in the future.
So Sodbileg, like, how many schools are involved here in UB with this conference? Because there's MUN here in UB, right?
There are a lot of MUN conferences, and like almost like every like English speaking schools like hold one, I would say. Yeah.
Oh, okay. But Yuri, how was the experience? Is there a difference in level of the conference? Because you went to BEIMUN, which is organized by the International School of Beijing, and they have their stuff organized. I know that. So what's the main difference?
So last year I went to Elite MUN, and I think it was my first time. I was like really confused, but on the during the general assemblies, like countries were talking about bombing each other because they were disagreeing on their amendment, and I was like really confused, and I didn't even go to next 2 days. So yeah, compared to that, this experience was like really professional. Everyone knew what they were doing. Yeah.
So we could host something like this with the UBAT schools, American school, English school together. Those, that we have a structure in place that could work maybe, Oyundari, with those schools.
Yeah, I think it could.
Okay, so we should look into that next year then. How can we get more students from ISU involved? Because you three went to BEIMUN, and we had a student leadership conference, Oyundari. We had 4 of you doing a presentation. How can we get more students involved in these kind of activities? What would you tell them? Why should they join next year? Zaya.
I think it should be of like personal interest mainly. Like they should take the initiative themselves to like email and then consider it, because it's a really good experience. Like even just for one time, I think you'll learn like a lot.
What's the total? How many can you take? Is it kind of limited?
To joining?
Yeah. Is it just limited to 3, or is there more people could join from the school?
I think a lot more could join. I'm not sure.
Yeah, a lot more could join. Like last year, before COVID, I was supposed to take a group of students to Taiwan. I was supposed to take around 10 students to Taiwan, but then COVID happened. So this year, I guess people were not that interested because they were afraid the same thing might happen again. So it's usually open from in this conference, we had students from grade 6. So it's usually open from grade 6 all the way to grade 12 for students to participate.
And how do they get to know about it? Is it something that is in particular lessons, or how does that work?
Not really. I sent an email in the beginning to the whole school about it, those who wanted to participate. And then last year when I was trying to start the conference, because this is the first time ISU has had an MUN delegation before. So I identified a specific number of students I had noticed in my INS classes and told them this is something that can be of value to you. So I handpicked a specific number of students, but it's usually open to anybody, any student who wants to participate.
And they can send you an email?
Yes, but next year, remember, I'm not going to be in ISU. So whoever will be coming up to taking that to become the director will need to, aggressively market to the students as well.
Yeah.
It's very important that we are part of ACAMIS. So ACAMIS has about 170 schools in China, Hong Kong, Taiwan. and they share all this information with all the schools who are connected. So there's always that's very important that we are part of ACAM. It's not only sports, it's MUN, it's drama, it's all kind of things that give our kids opportunities to do new things. So always check the ACAM's website. It's very important. All the information will be there.
We're always looking for new ways to get students involved, right? Like the Oyundari attending the leadership conference. So anything that kind of has our students step up and be leaders is awesome. If even if they're just kind of participants and just kind of taking it in the first time, so that you can kind of learn and grow and get more involved in the future, is spectacular. So that's so great that you girls did this.
Yeah, guys. We're gonna finish up our podcast, and I want from all of you four just a final reflection. The main highlights of your BEIMUN conference. Let's start with Zaya, Sodbileg, Oyundari, and we finish with Mr. Mwangangi. Zaya.
Overall, I'd say it was a pretty overwhelming experience, as it was my first time, and everybody really thought on the spot really quickly. So for future, I think before I go into the debate, I should practice thinking on the spot and knowing exactly what to say to be better.
Thank you. Sodbileg.
I got to learn a lot from other students, and I would recommend MUN to all the students who are considering to major in politics, international relations, because it could be really important experience for them. Yeah. Also, it will help to develop your public speaking skills as well. Yeah.
Thank
For
you.
me, attending the BEIMUN attending the BEIMUN conference, it allowed me to, step out of my comfort zone and really helped me develop my research skills, because there's a lot of preparation before the conference. So I think it's a really useful skill to have to collect information, find what we need.
Thank you, Oyu.
I would say my big takeaway from this conference is one call to action that was made by the Secretary General of the United Nations, and that was, in an increasingly fragmented world, we need to give discourse a chance. And so as teachers, we need to provide our students an opportunity to give discourse a chance.
Thank you so much. Hey guys, thank you so much for representing not only the school but Mongolia. Well, you represent different countries, but you also represent our school and Mongolia. Thank you so much for doing that for us. And thank you for the dog to be on our podcast today. That's awesome, Oyundari. Waves to the camera. Thank you guys for being here, and thank you, Mr. Mwangangi, for supporting our students in this conference. Thank you so much for being here today. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, guys. Okay, that was episode 7 of the ISU podcast with Zaya, Sodbileg, Oyundari, and Mr. Mwangangi. And it was great to hear their stories about the BEIMUN conference.
Yeah, I've heard of MUN conferences. I've never attended one. So it was great to hear what they're all about and how that sort of thing works and how we can get students involved in such a thing.
I would have thought my impression would have been that you'd only have a small amount of time, a limited amount of time. But it sounds like they had, because the research they had to do before, plus the days that they had to attend, they got a great deal out of it.
It's a lot of work that goes into it. At my old school, they were hosting every year. A lot of work, and so the supervisors, they put a lot of effort in it. So thank you again, Mr. Mwangangi, for supporting our ISU students, for being there, and for all the students watching. Join next year, even if it's virtual or it's face to face, and maybe we can support to host something, not as big as ISB, of course, but something small within our UBEC community. starting small, you can always build it out in the future. So thank you guys for sharing, and I hope you enjoyed the podcast.
Definitely. Always look for ways to get involved. Put yourself out there. Give it a try.
You will always learn something.
Plenty to do, isn't there?
Yeah.
Which is wonderful.
Okay, that's it for episode 7. Thank you everybody for watching.